What's up, hobby friends? My name is Casey, and welcome to another miniature rescue. This week, I'm going to try and save some nasty Finecast Dark Eldar for Warhammer 40,000. Generally, when we go to rescue models, the paint is a bit thick, something is broken, off, or missing, but overall, not that bad, really. The only miniatures that I actually don't like to rescue, or pretty much buy at all, if I'm being perfectly honest, are the older Games Workshop Finecast models. Now, I have purchased quite a few of them, stripped them, painted them just like any other model in my collection, but every single one of them I have felt much less happy with at the end. If you don't know what a Finecast model is, here's kind of a quick overview. So Games Workshop began the Citadel Finecast sector amidst kind of failing revenue around 2011. The idea was to take existing spin-cast metal molds, and instead of putting metal in them, which was pretty expensive, they would spin resin through those molds to get the same results, or that was the idea. Metal is heavier and pretty expensive by comparison, not just to manufacture, but to ship. Resin is relatively cheap and lightweight, so making these types of models was a strategic move to try and stabilize their profits. The justification was that these models were easier than metal. They take less preparation and are less susceptible to the same pitfalls as metal, mainly prepping and pinning parts. The reality is, the models that came out were just lesser quality for the most part, usually taking way more time to prep just because of the excess mold lines and resin that got everywhere. Regardless, Games Workshop sold Finecast from 2011 to around 2015-2016 when plastic became easier and they had in fact stabilized their profits, and a little game called Age of Sigmar came out and probably did a lot to help that. What we are left with though are a ton of pretty nasty models floating around on the used market, as well as some that just haven't sold, still actually available on GW's website and at a ton of brick and mortar stores. The weird thing is though, sometimes you do get lucky, and a kit works really well for this process, and in theory it is better than metal, easier to work with, crisper details, all of the things that they actually wanted out of it. But more often than not, at least in my personal experience, the models are a ton of work. They're just problems on top of problems that you might not be able to actually fix. That brings us to this week's models. Now I picked up a set of 6 Drukhari mandrakes in Finecast for pretty much next to nothing on eBay. Now I've been sitting on these for a while, but a recent project that I did, which will be coming out pretty soon, landed me with a box of new mandrakes for Kill Team. So I thought this would be perfect to put a few more options on the table and get these guys back to where they actually need to be in order to play a game. But before that, let me tell you about today's excellent sponsor. So, how often do you think about safety when it comes to browsing online? How about getting the best price on something like hotel bookings or flights? Well, Surfshark can absolutely help with that. With user-friendly privacy and security solutions that protect your personal information online, defend your devices against viruses and malicious software, and guarantee the security of your emails, credit cards, and other sensitive data. Surfshark is easy to set up on all your devices too, really quick to get up and running, and instant peace of mind when you're trying to get stuff done. I've been traveling a ton lately as well, and when I'm on the road using Wi-Fi from a bunch of different places, it's really nice to know that I can access any kind of sensitive information on an open network and not have to worry about that information being seen or taken by anyone else. Surfshark also has a ton of other perks, like using it on an unlimited number of devices, so everything that you have is covered. They are a no-log VPN, they have 3,200 servers in 100 countries, and 24/7 customer support if you ever do run into any issues. Surfshark is also more than just a VPN. You can secure your connection, but also things like Surfshark Antivirus, certified antivirus software that makes sure that you aren't downloading anything that will ruin your day. Secure your privacy, data, and protect your wallet today by heading to the link in the description down below. Go to surfshark.com/rescues or use code RESCUES at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. There's also absolutely no risk in trying Surfshark, and they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So check it out. Thanks again, Surfshark, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to those minis. Of course, the ones I picked up on eBay are missing limbs, and the weapons are really flimsy because, they're resin and not metal, and the details in areas like the feet are almost non-existent. Some of them are really bad. And in some, just broken off completely. They're just not there. One of the larger problems with Finecast is that the molds were made for metal. So things that would need to be solved for in the design process for resin were not really in mind when these molds were made. So these are the problems that we end up running into. But here we are, and we have the model, so what am I going to do about it? I need to source extra limbs, arms, hands, feet, and weapons to replace the bad ones. I also want to keep them as close to the original as possible because, regardless of the actual material this is made of, I actually like these models. They look cool. So let's start by sourcing parts, since that will be the thing that really makes the difference here. I looked online for quite some time, and I found a ton of different things that could possibly work. Tons of emo elf minis with all sorts of spiky weapons, but I only really found one kit that I felt the aesthetic was something I could actually work with. Now, these are fiends from Imperatum Art on my mini factory, and they seem like just the thing that I needed. I mean, they're actually pretty good models just in their own right, too. So I printed out a set and got them ready to potentially be cut up, which seems kind of weird. Cutting up good minis to save broken ones, but of course it's 3D printing and I can just make more. It's pretty great. As these minis were printing, I also had a thought, and one that I'm embarrassed to say I had very late into this project. Why not just look into the box of mandrakes that I already have and see what kind of leftovers are still in there? Kill team boxes in particular are multi-part plastic kits that come with a variety of options for each model, so you can make the type of kill team that you want, equipped the way that you want. Since I hadn't finished the models in the box, I did take a little bit to put them all together, that way I knew exactly what I had left. Turns out, it was quite a lot of really great bits. There were a bunch of arms holding weapons, which is basically what I need to actually fix these Finecast models. Still, some of these minis needed new feet, so I cut away the parts that I might need from the sprue, and I cut the feet off of a few of the resin minis I just printed to use as replacements on the old ones. All of those Finecast models need to be cleaned though, and they still have flashing and mold lines from just being cast. Let that sink in for a second too. These are used models, and they are missing some things, but the models themselves came this way, new. Most of this damage isn't from someone getting overzealous with super glue, although there's some of that too. The point is, they look like this out of the box. Using an X-Acto knife, I go through each model, shaving down mold lines, cutting away the excess resin, flashing, and try and make these look their best before we start to modify them with new parts. And I built 5 new mandrakes in probably about an hour. They were the new plastic kits, and they are very, very good. It took me at least that amount of time to just clean these off. Not build them fully ready to paint, just clean them. Now that they are clean, I can start to dry fit some parts, check the angles, and make sure that they will work how I want them to. Of course, the mandrake arms from the new kits basically fit perfectly. I did have to drill out larger holes on the shoulders for some of those joints to fit, but I have to say that these went together much nicer than I actually thought they would initially. The arm sockets are more specific and keyed as such for the plastic kits, but as long as there is enough room to fit into the resin, I could really play with the angles of the arms. In some cases, I was able to keep the arm and just replace the hand holding whatever the weapon was because they were flimsy, which also worked really well. The sizes are almost identical, so the parts glued together without any issues. The feet were interesting. I shaved down the MC Hammer pants on the minis, missing feet, to try and get them to a place where I could have little 3D printed feet poking out of the bottom and it would still look basically the same. I cut away the ankles on a few models and lined them up while the feet were on the base, so that I could see the angle and placement and make sure that it looked as natural as possible. Then I put some CA glue on the model and activator on top of the foot, lined it up in the same way on the base, and lightly pressed down so it would attach to the model and dry almost instantly. This method actually worked perfectly, and it did exactly what I was hoping it would do. It worked well enough that I kind of forgot which ones I did later on. They just looked how they were supposed to. If you look really close, you can tell, but on the table, you can't really see it, which is really the goal, right? We want to fix the problems that these minis have while making it kind of look like they just came that way. That's what a good conversion does as well. You just don't question it as a conversion, you just think of it being made that way, so feel good about these little feet. Now that the models have been cleaned up and everything is looking pretty much proper, it's time to get them primed up. I got out the airbrush primer and gave them all a good coat of matte black primer. Then I followed that up with some white from above to get those details to pop out for when we paint, just so I can see everything. After getting everything primed up, I can start to get some base coats down on the model. For the poofy pants, I opted for a bone color with some nice bright highlights. That way, it really contrasts with the darker skin tone that we're going to end up with. I use a 3-color triad for bone from the Army painter that makes it pretty easy. I do try and avoid the skin, although some overspray is inevitable, but I really don't want to overload the skin with paint since the details are a bit rough on these particular sculpts. More on that in a little bit though. The pants get a pretty straightforward base coat followed by a pretty heavy spray of the mid-tone and a top-down or angled spray of the lightest bone color to catch the folds and the top of the legs. There will be a little more work to do on these, but for the most part, they're pretty much done. Those pants look good. For all the ropes, I opted for a mahogany brown, something that brings in even more warmth to the lower part of the model. While I was painting ropes, I got all excited about getting some crisp lines onto the pants, so I used a bright ivory in the bone triad and I got some lines on them. That little line really does show the difference in color from top to bottom. When you have a single line of color running down the entire seam, it definitely does the job. It also helps to put a line of that lighter color underneath the rips and tears on the pants. Makes those details stand out really well. Finecast tends to do well with these kinds of thicker details. There are large chunks of resin, and for the most part the rips and tears come out pretty cleanly. It's the skin that starts to really show the limitations of that process. Just before we hit that, I'm going to take care of the silver metallics across the models. The blades get hit as well as some hooks on some of the pants. The skin gets a couple of thin layers of dark gray green. I like this for their skin, and it works really well in these minis. The colder color contrasts nicely, and if I'm careful, I can kind of get away with not doing a ton of work on their hair since we did a nice white over the black for that, so the hair is actually just standing out nicely. I do still have to come in and paint it, which is fine, but having that lighter color just makes it a little bit easier. It is at this point where, again, I guess, the Finecast part of it does come into play. The hair becomes very thin, and in some cases the details get completely lost. So getting a good read on individual strands just doesn't really work, and you end up with some weirdness where the hair meets the skin. In fact, from here on, I really feel like the quality of the casting plays a pretty significant role in how everything ends up. The hair being really fine, but also filled with imperfections and bubbles makes it difficult to get a nice smooth finish. And trying to pick out specific strands is basically impossible. Today, these strands of hair are modeled much larger, and it makes sense where things are. So weirdly, less realistic, but it comes across more realistic because it's cleaner. For all the magic flamey bits, I went with a bright yellow to cover everything and then a little bit of bright contrasty green to pick out some of the recessed details. Because most of these are on newer plastic arms, they actually do a really nice job at distracting you from the other parts of the model, which I find to be kind of helpful. The flames look nice. There's a good separation in the fingers. Of course, not all of them have those new limbs, so some of them don't quite look as good, but overall, not the worst part of these models. After doing some brushwork on the hands, I come in with a teeny tiny brush and get some white into the runes across the bodies. Each one gets filled just enough to give the runes the shape, so I can paint in some of that bright yellow and green over that. Then I can take all of them over to the airbrush station and freshen up that fiery glow with a little bit of an airbrush transition. I used a business card to mask off the stuff that I didn't want to hit and lightly gave each hand a transition from light yellow near the hand to a darker green at the ends of the flames. This is all magical, made up fire, so I made sure it just had a little bit of extra cool flair. At this point, I was pretty much done with these minis. They ended up being great for the tabletop, and I'm glad that I got them, but honestly, kind of just fed up with them. It's not great. It's not a great place to be. I like to paint miniatures, and I like a good challenge when it comes to fixing up a model and getting it to look good on the table. But once again, Finecast comes in and absolutely knocks me down. I am still happy with the slight conversions here, and the models did get there in the end. They look like they're supposed to, but the problems along the way are due to the fact that these were made the way that they were, and that just kind of sucks. Now, I know I kind of answered this at the beginning, but the question sort of still remains. Are Finecast models worth rescuing? The short answer is no. You're probably better off buying the metal minis or a newer plastic version, especially in this case, since there are multiple iterations of this model in both metal and plastic. You go back even just a little bit before this era, and you get some really, really nice Dark Eldar Mandrakes. They're a little bit different, but they're pretty sweet. And honestly, I would actually just rather have 10 of these, even for something like Kill Team, than what we have. That being said, the newer models are really nice, the plastic kits for Kill Team, and I enjoyed putting them together and actually enjoyed painting them. They work really well. The details are nice enough and crisp enough that you can do a really good paint job on them without too much effort. So I guess it kind of depends on where you want to go, but in the middle are these Finecast models, and no. The slightly longer answer is yes, but with a little asterisk next to it. If the price is good, and I mean really good, and you need that model for whatever reason, then of course it's going to be worth it. It does the job, and they don't look completely awful some of the time. In fact, some Finecast models actually look perfectly fine. Like, maybe it was just a good day in the factory, I don't know. But the range in quality is so huge sometimes that it's only a yes when it is actually beneficial in more ways than you just want that model. Like the price or the quantity or whatever, more than just one thing to make you want to buy a Finecast model or models. So yes, but in my case, there was quite a bit of work involved, and at the end of the day, I do feel like I have accomplished something that I wanted to do. I really wanted to just get these out of the drawer and onto the table. So that's pretty great. It also makes me want to shelve these completely and go hard on an all-metal Dark Eldar army, but it's going to have to wait for another time. Until then, thank you again for joining me on another miniature rescue. If you like something about this video, please consider hitting that like button, sharing this video with your hobby friends, and subscribing for more miniature rescues. Once again, I'm Casey, and I will see you in the next video. And of course, here are the completed Finecast Dark Eldar Mandrakes. Thanks again for watching.